Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. So in today's video we're going to take a look at the Spyderco Nirvana. This is a knife that I have anticipated for a very long time because it took a very long time for it to come out. More than probably a year late based on kind of their initial expectations, but was very difficult for the Taichung facility to build, and this knife's claim to fame is the integral construction and bearings. So obviously it's a collaboration with custom knife maker Peter Recenti out of Canada, based on his custom model, the Nirvana, as well. And this knife is as close as you can essentially get to the full custom in terms of materials, fit and finish. It's really well done. I've handled a few Nirvanas at this point, so sadly I don't have one here for a side-by-side comparison. But by and large, it definitely has the same feel and kind of the same essence that you would get from the full custom. Just, $430 now at MAP pricing versus $1,200 or more for the full custom version. So just about a third of the price there. In terms of getting your hands on this particular one. So, alright, we'll go through specs, overall impressions, and details. I do have one comparable option here, and then I will touch on the other options out there as well. Ships with the new Spyderco pouches that are padded and felt lined and stuff. Comes with a few random things that aren't worth mentioning. And let's jump to the specs, and I will bring out the only comparable option that I do have here with me at this point, which is the Custom Knife Factory Tegral. So, also of integral construction, also on bearings. This one is a flipper, and yeah. Alright, so again, the Spyderco Nirvana was the first production integral on bearings announced. Now, there were a few others that came to market prior to this knife, such as the Custom Knife Factory Tegral. Again, bearings, integral construction. It was announced and came out well before the Nirvana here, I think about 6 months prior. There is also two models from Reich Knives. I've only handled one of them, which was the smaller, I think 1503. I don't recall the numbers right now, but there are two from Reich. And then Riot Knives has it sold a couple, had a couple at Blade Show. Of a model called the Future, which is a collaboration with Toshi Barucha. So this one, the Riot Future, and the Reich 1503 or 1507, I don't remember. There's essentially three other options out there aside from the Nirvana at this point. Alright, specs. Let's jump into it. We do have a blade length here of 3.75 inches, handle length of 4.96, giving us an overall of 8.72. These two knives are essentially the exact same size. The handle thickness is 0.49 inches, so just under half an inch thick. This piece of titanium likely started out life as a half-inch piece of tie, and before all the milling that took place, they milled out the center section here, milled down the handles, milled in all the shapes and everything. So whereas the Tegral here, this is over half an inch thick. This started out life as a at least 0.6 inch piece of tie, maybe more. And yeah, no stainless steel lock insert on either of these. This one obviously uses the spider hole opening method and employs some familiar Spyderco features such as their standard pocket clip and so forth. And it does weigh in at 4.85 ounces. So that should pretty much do it for the specs. Let's get into the kind of the details on this one, and we'll talk about some things along the way. Actually, I need to talk about my overall impressions. So, overall impressions, I'm really happy with it. I think that it was well executed. I think that it's very close to the Recenti Custom. There are a few things that I think that certain collectors will have issues with, such as the non-decorative pivot and pocket clip, and the lock bar tension is very, very strong on this model, so be prepared for a little bit of thumb abuse. Lock stick, not an issue for me. and mine came razor sharp out of the box. So I have seen the forums, some people have complained about having a sharp edge or there being lock stick. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, really happy with the fit and finish. I've been a Spyderco fan from the beginning. I've always been a huge Spyderco fan, so you know, there are probably some things that I give passes on this knife, full disclosure. At the price point, $430 is quite a chunk of change. Is this model worth it? That's up to you. I would not be upset, you know, paying full matte pricing for this model. We'll talk about pricing in a little bit, but yeah, really well done. I think the price it's fine. It's not ideal, but it's fine. And if you want Spyderco to continue to produce really high quality models, then models like this do have to succeed. So, is what it is. Alright, let's get into the details then. I'll move this out of the way and reference it if I need to kind of throughout the video. S90V blade steel. Really high quality steel. It's going to hold an amazing edge. It's going to be really difficult to sharpen, so really glad this one came sharp out of box. Otherwise, I don't think I would tackle it. I'd just give it to someone else to sharpen. It does employ the Spyderco hole, which is my favorite non-flipper method of opening. I like it better than the Striders. You know, again, that's going to be a debate all of its own, but you know, placement is fantastic. Easy to access, works really well. You have the Spyderco logo. It is made by the Taichung, Taiwan factory, which is not owned by Spyderco, and I believe that is Peter Vicenti's mark there, so yeah. Saber grind, again, beautiful edge on mine. Nice and consistent secondary bevel all the way throughout on both sides. Really clean, really well done. There is some jimping up top. It's aggressive without being sharp. I like it. It's extremely functional. It does taper here towards the distal end, and then it kind of flows into the swedge up top. So yeah, really attractive overall. I think the blade flows with the handle. Beautiful, iconic design from Peter Vicenti. Those of you in custom knives have seen this design quite a bit, so yeah. Let me show you the action on the bearings. Again, as I mentioned, there's quite a bit of lock bar tension on this, which makes it not as pleasant to disengage, but you do have a nice strong detent, which I'm not showing you well there, but does equate to really good flipping action, so yeah. Flicks really hard. Nice and easy. Again, the lock bar though, your thumb is absolutely going to take a beating if you're trying to break this thing in, so yeah. That is one of the differences between the custom. Peter Vicenti doesn't have this much tension on his lock bars, as I recall. You know, is what it is, minor criticism. Although in Spyderco's eyes, they would rather have a knife with a stronger lock bar that has complete and solid lockup and avoids any potential safety issues. So, you know, large companies, they're going to put safety first. Anyways, not a huge deal. As you can see, it works. Alright, handle. Obviously, this is kind of where the this knife's claim to fame comes in. Lots of nice machining, nice chamfering here on both sides. You do have a kind of a nice wide, I don't know, finger choil, whatever you want to call it here. And that sits in the hand really well, locks in the hand, very comfortable, so I do like that quite a bit. The cutout for the Spyderco, for the spider hole here, is really easy to get to, and then that creates a nice spot to disengage the lock bar as well. So kind of a dual functionality there. There is a little bit removed from the lock bar to make it easier to access, and again, as I showed you, works really well for me. As far as lefties go, you guys are kind of SOL because it's only you know, drilled and tapped here on the right-handed user side, not drilled and tapped on the left. If that might be something that Peter Vicenti would do for those of you interested, there might be a fee, and I'm speaking for him without talking to him, so maybe not. But I know that some custom makers if they had a knife that came out that wasn't drilled and tapped for left, that was something they were willing to do, maybe, or may not have been with a fee attached. He is in Canada, so there's going to be some shipping costs as well. Who knows? We'll see. Maybe he'll just offer them, but if you're not following him on Instagram, I'll put his link down below. That'll be a good place to follow. I do know he received a shipment of these, so yeah. Now there's some jimping on the back. It's also functional in the hand. Let me see if I feel it a little bit. It seems to give a little bit of grab here, but ergos are on point. Very comfortable knife. Again, slender. It actually carries really well in the pocket. Let's talk about the pocket clip. So this is one of those areas that, being a Spyderco fan, I'm going to give it a pass. Definitely not the most exciting clip. I've already seen some complaints that in this price point they expected something, 3D machine in titanium like the one on the Tegral here. Spyderco's always been about functionality, first and foremost. Functionality, ergonomics. The clip is definitely one of their holdovers. They took the time to stone wash it and, stone wash and acid wash it. So it does match to an extent. Honestly, I really don't care. It works, it functions beautifully. As far as extraction, those 3 screws here give you a really nice point to grab onto the knife and pull it out. So I don't mind the clip at all. I absolutely give it a pass as a Spyderco fan. Yeah. I did have someone ask me if these edges here were sharp, since they are ground or fairly thin, or machined fairly thin. They're not sharp. There's really no discomfort. If you really want to jam your finger in there really hard, you might find some discomfort, but nothing to worry about. Alright, let's talk about the lock stick real quick. So when they shipped this one out, they did coat the pivot pretty heavily in lubricant. And so the first thing I did when I got this one was to take a Q-tip and clean off the blade tang, remove any lubricant, opened it and closed it a few more times, cleaned it off again, and then I just took a standard, mechanical pencil, and I just, scribbled on there and coated the entire blade tang in graphite. And I've had 0 issues with lock sticks. So I've already seen, on the forums, a lot of people are talking about lock stick. If you use that method, 99% of you won't have a problem. There might be one where there was an issue with the geometry or something, or there's a more serious issue, but for 90% of you guys, that will remedy any lock stick with this knife. So really a non-issue for me. A lot of knives that have titanium frames with no lock insert do require some type of break-in period. The Rubicon that I had terrible lock stick, and that one, I didn't clean it off and graphite it, which I probably should have. That one was a pain in the butt. So just clean it off, graphite it, you should be just fine. Alright. So, price point. If you pre-ordered this knife, you may have been lucky enough to get it around $390 to $400. MAP pricing went into effect after this knife was, a couple months after pre-orders open, and the new price is moving forward, $430. Doesn't really matter where you go, the knife will be the same everywhere. I'm not a fan of MAP pricing. I do understand it from a business standpoint. It is what it is. There's really no way around it unless you want to become a knife dealer and start selling in volume. Although that's, that doesn't really fix the addiction, that makes it worse. So, at $430, I mean, there are definitely some comparable options out there. I think I got the Tegral here on sale for under $400. I did pre-order this one, so I mean, it was at $390. I already see these going for like 500 plus on secondary, just because the supply is so limited right now that guys are flipping them essentially. So yeah, essentially it's in the same price point as a lot of the other integrals here that are on bearings. I really have no issues with the price. It is what it is. If you guys want to see Spyderco continue to put out really high quality designs that are really expensive to make, these knives have to sell, and they have to sell well. So, just food for thought. Again, Spyderco is more of kind of a entry to mid-level knife producer. A lot of the diehard fans are not happy with the higher priced Spydercos. I'm perfectly happy. You know, I'm happy they did it. I hope they keep producing really high quality knives. As far as Spyderco's reputation in the industry goes, among custom knife makers, they are the best company to work with. So, you know, food for thought. You know, that's kind of outside of the scope of most collectors, but everyone loves to work with them. So, yeah. Now, Taichung. This knife was produced in Taichung, Taiwan, by the company that Spyderco partners with. Spyderco does not own the facility in Taichung. They are a large manufacturer and they produce a lot of knives for a lot of different companies. This build was a first for them as well as it was for Spyderco, and they really struggled. The volumes that Sal mentioned somewhere was maybe 50 knives a month being put out. And for a manufacturer of that size, I mean, they are probably doing 500 knives a day typically. I mean, and again, there's no foundation for that number, but this knife has proved extremely difficult for them to make because it is not something within their normal scope of production. Now that's great because that means that they're going to have to adapt and learn how to do it, and moving forward, you know, it's just going to make them better. And hopefully we'll see that improved skill and performance in future knives, be them integral or not. So anyways, kudos to Spyderco for making the attempt. Kudos to the manufacturer in Taichung for being willing to try. Putting out numbers like 50 a month, you know, this might turn into a limited production knife. I mean, I don't know that this has happened before with Spyderco, with the Taichung facility, but you know, this is absolutely going to be a collector's piece moving forward. Hopefully it does not turn into limited production, but again, it very well may be. I mean, producing that few a month, it's got to be way more expensive than they anticipated to make. So anyways, again, that's kind of outside the scope of collectors. That's more the manufacturing side, but it is food for thought and kind of keeping in mind how to think about this knife. So again, there are some great comparable options. Custom Knife Factory has already mentioned they will be doing more integrals, and their future ones will have, you know, stainless steel lock inserts. Riot might do more as well. I mean, the Future by Riot's still upcoming. Reich has their 2 models that are in production, should be hitting the States with a new batch soon. So definitely a great time to be a collector. Lots of great options for integrals. Are they necessary? No. Are they cool? Yeah. Are they more difficult to produce? Absolutely. There's no question about it. So a year later, it was worth the wait. Really happy to have mine. So hopefully you guys got what you wanted out of this video. If you do have any questions, let me know in the comments below. I will absolutely do my best to answer them. If you liked it or you pity me, just throw me a like. And be sure to subscribe for more upcoming content. So thanks for watching, guys. Take care.